All right, and welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. Ryan Matthews here with Jeffrey Klein.
What up?
And we are going to be talking about, with the market starting to move, a lot of people, I've got a call today actually, somebody's looking to potentially sell their house. And I got this question asked, what do we need to do if we're going to sell our home in 2024? So I thought that was a good question to get out to everybody, because I know you've been asked it. I've been asked it a couple of times. So I think we need something good to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So, and we're going to do these kind of building upon each other. And I will have a guide that you can download from here. So look in the show notes. We will have a guide that will kind of walk you through this as well. But number one is condition. Condition is one of those things where it's like people need to people are going to come through your house looking to imagine themselves in the house.
Yeah.
So it's going to involve not just cleaning, but also decluttering and some of those minor repairs that you might need to do, because you want this to be something like almost like a showroom.
Yeah.
So
Is it like it's like within 30 seconds or something like that, somebody decides if they like your house?
I think so. Yeah, it's like they're going to know right away. Even your yard. I've seen houses that have like stuff all over the front yard that's like, no, just you need to have a landscaper come clean up or something like that. It needs to have curb appeal, and you need somebody to walk in right away to say, I like this home.
Do you have any recommendations, like something that people don't even think about that's like everyone thinks, okay, clean, declutter, maybe touch up paint, touch up some caulking, stuff like that.
Right.
But is there like one that you can kind of pinpoint that's like something that people kind of overlook that maybe has a bigger impact?
I think right now, especially lighting, I think you'd want all of your light bulbs to match. It may cost you $100, but you want to make sure you understand. You want them to match. You want the light to match, but you also want it to be bright enough. If you have like those soft white lights, it's too dark, and it feels enclosed. So something I would always recommend, get those medium grade, like those super bright whites. Those are like clinical. You don't want that, but you want something that's like that. And again, the bulbs are going to last forever. They're a little bit more expensive, yes, but $150 is going to make a massive difference. That is going to be almost unconscious for somebody to come in, but it's going to make a massive difference.
See, it's interesting because like the one that I was thinking of was window cleaning, right?
Ooh, that is a good one.
Taking off, so similarly, I guess lighting, taking off your like the sunscreens that you have or the bug screens, and having that clean window to look out to the backyard. If you got a beautiful backyard, you want to really showcase that. So
exactly,
interesting lighting, I guess, in some ways, but then also, like I said, window cleaning.
So, yeah, and I think we talk about a lot, but you want the potential buyers to be able to picture themselves in your home.
Yes.
So any family photos, we love your family. You guys are cute and adorable, but take those off the walls, because that doesn't allow these potential buyers to picture them in that home.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that probably goes along with like decluttering, right? And the same thing for, if you have a lot of kitchen appliances.
Yes.
Right. Coffee makers, air fryers, ice cream makers, salt and pepper shakers. You know what I mean? Like, maybe hide some of that in the counter or, in the cabinets or
put
something.
It away. Yep. And I think if you have questions, you can always go take a look, like with your agent, to go when you're looking at potential new builds, or you walk through, like take note of what like a kitchen looks like there. Like they might have a little plant or something decorative, but for the most part, there's zero on the counters anywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone has that counter that like kind of houses junk and stuff like that. Like just put it in a drawer, put it in a box, just for a special, obviously photos. Not all photographers are going to like tell you how to declutter. So that's where an agent can coach you ahead of time. So you're not like hiding stuff right as the photographer's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything should be off the counters, very clean, where there's really nothing to see on there.
Yeah. No, I agree. So let's move to point number 2.
Perfect.
And that is
pricing. Yes. So everybody knows you have to have a competitively priced house.
Yes.
But dive deeper into kind of the different factions of price and how that can really affect your sale.
Yeah, this is a concept that you kind of taught me. But it's the idea that you have the right price and the wrong price, but you also have, you're in the market, out of the market, or you're in no man's land.
That's right.
Right. And the way that you described it, and that it was, you taught it to me, was that when you are priced correctly, you are in the market, you're getting showings, you're getting offers. When you're priced incorrectly, you're going to be, depending on how far out you are, right? You might be out of the market, which is no showings, no offers, or no man's land, which is maybe you're getting a couple showings, but you're not getting any offers.
Exactly.
And so I like that concept a lot. I mean, honestly, for me, a big part of it is pricing correctly, meaning look at the comps, in past markets we could push the comps a little bit.
Mhm.
This is not the market to do that. You want to be
Right.
either right at the comps, right below, or offer some kind of an incentive to your seller or to your buyer, whether it's
Like what?
yeah, good question. So rate buy downs, closing cost coverage, home warranty, things like that. Understanding that even though that is your asking price, you will probably close below. According to Cromford, I think the peak time in 2023 to sell your home to get closest to asking price was in
Mhm.
October, right? You got
Interesting.
98% of asking price.
Interesting.
But I mean, you got to think on a $400,000 house, 2% is $4,000, right? But I mean,
Right.
still, so now you're closing around 395, let's say,
Yeah.
instead of at 400. And so obviously it escalates a little bit from there. So, and then I think I saw as low as like 97 or 96%. So at that 400,000, 4%, that's $16,000 below,
Right.
right? So you got to think you're probably not going to get your asking price right now unless your home is absolutely perfect. And if you price it a little bit at the market or a little bit under, then you might get that asking a little bit higher too.
Right. Yeah, and go into that a little bit deeper. So if talk the strategy of pricing a little under market value, what does that do when you do price it under?
So when you do price it under, it becomes a deal, right? It increases the perception that people are getting a great deal on your home. It increases buyer demand. Buyer demand drives up activity. Activity drives pricing up.
Yep.
Right. So that's kind of one of the strategies that I used a long time ago, and I still try to use as much as I can. Is pricing it just slightly below to try to drive a frenzy during open houses to kind of move a house,
Right.
open house first weekend kind of a thing. But yeah, so pricing under actually can have the benefit of getting you that top dollar. Most people think conversely, which is, start high, end low, and that's not
Right.
always the case. I mean, maybe in some capacities, but honestly, sometimes it's better just start low and then watch the market do its thing and push the price higher.
Right. Because this is not like buying a car. It's so different where like you need to get people in the house.
Yes.
And you like everyone has Zillow or Redfin or whatever. Like they're gonna see the homes really fast.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that priced right, or if somebody say, if it's overpriced, people are going to know. They're like, I don't want to pay that. That's not even going to get them to your house.
Mhm.
So if it's under, they think it's a deal. Now you have the opportunity to wow them with that condition we already talked about.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. And then, if you get multiple offers, now you have them that potentially can compete against each other. You could counter both offers and see and maximize that price.
You have that leverage. Yeah.
Exactly. But if say for that example, you're at 400, you price at 405 or 410, you may not get people in if it's $5,000 or $10,000 over, and now you have nobody to compete against. Now you might end up selling it for $380.
Yeah, and blow it up even. I mean, let's get crazy, right? So $2 million, right? What's 4% of that is what, $80,000?
Yeah.
So now you're closing for whatever 1.92.
Yeah.
Right. That's a huge gap.
Yeah.
And so you really want to make sure that you're priced correctly, because either you're not going to get it, or if you do price correctly and price under the market, then you're probably going to get pushed up a little bit.
Right. So. Exactly. And then go further in. I know people know that days on market is the more days on market you have, it changes the perception of the house. But how does the pricing, how does that come into the equation with days on market and everything too?
Yeah, I mean, it does change the perception. One thing I always tell sellers too, is like, sure, we can set your price here for a long time, but if you need to sell quickly, right? Depending on their mortgage payment, sometimes it doesn't work. The math doesn't work. Asking them to drop $10,000 to save $1,000 a month isn't going to do anything for them.
Right.
But telling them like, hey, your mortgage payment is $4,000 a month, right? The longer you sit here, the more you're paying $4,000, right? Why don't we drop the price by 10 and see if we can get you out of here a little quicker?
Exactly.
That's kind of my big point on that.
Yeah, there's a cost, a true cost involved on a month-by-month basis if you're priced too high, because you're not going to be getting offers and getting closed where it's like you might have to float thousands of dollars if it takes months to get sold.
Yeah, and I mean, if your mortgage payment is like $800, $1,200, it probably doesn't mean much to you, right? You're like, oh, I can.
It's more affordable at that point.
Yeah, but if you're at a higher price point and a higher mortgage amount, then
it can be a big swing.
Yeah,
exactly,
for sure.
Perfect. So number 3, marketing. I think that's super important, because anybody, and it was super apparent in 2021, 2020, where you didn't need to market. That was not necessary. You could put a Post-it note on a stick in a yard and it would probably sell.
Yeah.
And a lot of agents still, like, not to knock anybody, but it's not taught a lot, I think.
No.
That you have to think outside of the box with it being photos, it being a walkthrough video. And COVID really, that was a massive change. I think even in our industry that we saw that with COVID, even to let people in the home was really difficult. But it's kind of changed to where everybody has videos. And now if you can actually see the house before, and that's where we've put videos out, we can send those to agents.
Yeah.
They'll have a better idea if it's actually the house that they want to buy before they even get there. So it actually can increase the potential that someone showing it is going to actually buy it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, so what do you do to market homes, right? Because you and I just started working together, and within the last 6 months, and we do things a little differently. So why don't you talk about your process?
Yeah, 100%. With mine, it is we get good photos. Sometimes we'll do twilight, just depending on the home if that is going to showcase something. I have done home tours where you can get more exposure to it, door knocking the neighbors and cold calling around. And again, like just marketing with other agents, like having it on an email list, let people know that it's out there and say, hey, this is a deal. And again, talking about the specific uniqueness of the home, I think really speaks to the home. Like I had one home that I sold last year that it had like a 12-car garage. It's a converted airplane hangar. And I found that everybody wanted the big garages.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I'm looking for a buyer that needs a massive, about the same size garage now. And you have to understand that, okay, there's a certain type of buyer that's looking for this and it's not out there. And it does become kind of a unicorn out in the market. Mm-hmm. And so being able to understand what's unique about this property and how to get that to other agents that may have clients that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
And then I guess, how would you, like, obviously I've done mine, like, how do you do your marketing on your side?
Yeah, very similar. Professional photos. I'm starting to do twilight for most of them, dude. Regardless of price point. I got it from an agent that sells far more homes than I do.
Yeah.
Out in California, and it's actually not a bad idea because most people don't do it.
Right.
It's a little bit more expensive, so I get it, and so I am moving towards that. And then video. I try to do video for everyone.
And you've always done that. That's been really good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and then most people don't think that open houses are marketing, but I believe that they are because I think that if you do them properly, it matters, right? So social media posts in area specific Facebook groups, advertising the open house, sending it out to agents prior to the home going on the market, right? Just teasers, coming soons, things like that. So there's a lot of different things that we do, but I try to repurpose the media, right? So if I'm paying for somebody to come shoot a video, I'm going to ask them to chop it up into short little teasers so I can get that out, probably about a week before.
Right.
And then same thing for photos. If I think the photos are fantastic, I might send those out to agents in the area. Just say, hey, coming soon, be on the lookout, blah, blah, blah. Just try to drum up some interest. Again, open houses. It's pretty much, and I think beyond that, you said most of the other things too. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'll piggyback off of that where I'll use different social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok. Mm-hmm. I did one where I just threw my phone in the air just to get somebody. It's like, hey, let's go check this house out. And boom, I used it and then made it into a video where it's like, it's going to be catchy, where it's going to get people's attention. So anything that you can do to get it out to the masses, where all you need to find is one buyer who's interested. So the more you can get exposure to it, I think that's the biggest key to selling a home quick.
So on that, I did send you something on Instagram the other day. I don't know if you got a chance.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and it talks about pattern interrupts, and it's the idea that you need to find something that makes people stop scrolling, right? Interrupts their thought pattern. And so whether it's a transition, a funny intro, you in a suit, you in a hamburger outfit, doesn't matter, but just something, right? Maybe in a mascot outfit. I don't know. And so just something, right, that gets people to stop their scroll and watch this video.
Exactly. And you're totally right where, and like you said, with like some clients will like it more, some like it less, but I think if you can do that to a point where it does get somebody to stop scrolling and it's unique. Like I know agents that jump into pools, multiple agents that jump into pools. And that's something where it becomes, it's not too shticky, as they say, it's not gimmicky, but there's a reason that people find something that's unique. So it identifies you as the agent, but that's what you do on everyone. And I think it's absolutely like, I mean, how many times do you scroll mindlessly? Like I really try to be conscious of it, and I am not 100% successful where I'll find myself scrolling. And if you can find those ways that those videos really pop out, that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you'll see some people pull up in a Lamborghini or a Porsche or something. It definitely gets the the pause, right? You're like, oh my gosh, why is this person pulling up in a Lamborghini?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that there's different ways to go about it for sure. Whether it's again funny outfits, physical actions, or jumping in a pool, anything like that. But I think overall, right, the creative marketing is going to be really really important this year.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Getting attention, keeping attention on those homes. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the driver of getting homes sold faster,
Yep.
especially, and this will go to our next point, if they're unique.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So point number 4.
Yes. This is one of my favorites that we came up with. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. Make your house a unicorn.
Yes.
And what does that mean?
So I have some fun ones for you here, right? First off, let me define what it means, right? So what we were talking about, what it means to us. Every home is unique. You need to find what makes your home most unique. What I'm seeing right now is the homes that are selling quickly are the ones that are unique, right? Whether it's fully remodeled,
Yep.
right? That would make something unique.
Yep.
Maybe it's, I sold a 1950s house in the middle of a town, right? That was like, it's such a unique, on an acre in the middle of this little city.
Right.
That doesn't exist anywhere around there. It was really unique. We didn't get a lot of buyers because it was a higher price point, but it was so unique that it drove people in. Even my buyer bought it, and then a year later they were selling it.
Interesting.
It was such a unique house that it did that, right? Maybe your house is unique in that it's got a really nice backyard, something like that. But I've got one that actually I'm going to piggyback off of something that you did.
Okay.
You sold a house in Queen Creek recently.
Yes.
Using creative financing.
Yes.
Because the seller was able to do that.
Yep.
And they're open to it.
Mhm.
I would argue that is something that makes that home unique.
1000%.
So tell a little bit about that. Like
Yeah.
what that unique process was.
I knew kind of the details behind it. It was a referral from another agent. They had kind of a limit on how much they could go down on price.
Mhm.
So they could not become more unique on price.
Yes.
That way they could not go under price where they were, because then they would have had to bring money to close. I understood that we could do some unique, creative financing, which would allow a different way to sell the house, which would allow all those pieces to come together. They called me after and said, hey, I'd like to work with you. I said, okay, let's see what we can do here. And we were able to advertise it on the MLS with this creative financing. And that brought, I probably had 3 or 4 different people. One person found it on Zillow, an actual buyer, and then 2 or 3 other agents found it because it said that on the MLS sheet that they could do creative financing. That's what their buyer wanted.
Yeah.
And we were able to get full ask. We negotiated the deal so everybody got what they wanted. And where they had spent 8-9 months trying to sell the house, but to no avail. So it was very unique where it's like, hey, we have people that came through. We did not get a lot of buyers, similar to the one that you were saying, where it's like, this is one house on an acre in the middle of a town.
Yeah.
But the buyers that came through were 100% more qualified and more interested in the house because of that uniqueness that we were able to advertise. I don't want to say exploit, but to be able to use to our advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's, so I surprised you with that one. I don't think you knew I was going to go there.
No,
but,
you didn't.
Yeah.
Or I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways to make your house unique. I'm not saying paint polka dots on the side of your house.
Right.
I'm not saying paint your house purple or pink or whatever. What I am saying is find that thing that is unique. Maybe you have a corner lot, or maybe you're in the middle of a neighborhood and there's nothing unique about your house. Well, you got to find something, right?
Yeah. And you can even start, I would say, if you're listening to this thinking okay, exactly, you're what is unique? I'm just a cookie cutter house in a tract home neighborhood, which is very common here in Arizona. That was my house that I sold, but we had made a kid cave under the stairs and had been all finished. And we absolutely said, you have to take photos of this because it looked like a little cabin farmhouse, and it was the cutest thing. But from outside of it, you had no idea it was there.
Yeah.
And that people loved it. The kids came in, they go play with the toys. And that was something super unique that the people who bought it, they had 3 girls and they absolutely loved it. But I think every home you have to understand, if you're the homeowner, just say, okay, what's my favorite room in the house? Or what do I like best about this house? And a lot of times that's where you can start. And just talk to your agent, say, okay, this is unique. How do we market this and make this a caricature of it? How do we make it bigger so people understand this is what's really cool about this house and this is what we really like?
Yeah. And that's one thing, we said earlier that this all builds off of each other, right? Pricing, condition, marketing, right? And being unique, right? So you can be unique on price. You can be unique on condition. Maybe you're the cleanest house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. The most well kept house in the neighborhood. Maybe your marketing is unique, and again, you got to find that one unique thing.
Right.
I sold one a couple years ago, and some of my best friends, it was their house. We were selling at Christmas, and it was really just kind of a weird time to sell.
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. And his living room, I have one closing next week that's the exact same floor plan. Wild.
Okay.
Different. That's in Casa Grande. This one's in Phoenix.
Interesting.
Crazy. Yeah. Anyway, he had a massive, massive Christmas tree.
Yes.
Right? I'm talking like a 15-foot tree. Maybe not 15, maybe it was 12. Doesn't matter. It was huge. No,
Yeah.
I think it was 15, dude. We literally, he's like, should I decorate for Christmas? Like, you 100% need to decorate for Christmas.
Yes.
Dude, he had probably a 5-foot
If you
roof.
ever sell during the fall into Christmas time, 1000% you have to decorate it and have it ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, total side note.
No. And we launched before Christmas, which was nice because then he closed a little bit after Christmas. But we launched in early December, I should say. But he had to do a giant wreath outside. He had ornaments on the trees outside. He did this whole thing. But with the 15-foot Christmas tree, right? One of the things that I marketed the home with was space. That was a space video I mentioned earlier in this. Right?
Okay.
Because how many homes can you put a 15-foot Christmas tree in?
Right.
Not many.
Yeah.
Right. And
very few.
Yeah. Especially, anyway. So that was one of the unique things that we found, right? I was like, this is amazing, right? And it was also a huge house for the price point. It was 2,800 square foot for $300,000 back then.
Interesting.
And so, yeah. So
I like that. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so we've gone through it, and that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
From they all piggyback off each other. How do you become unique?
Exactly. And so once you've talked about your condition, your price, your marketing, and you figured out your unicornness, the fifth one is commitment.
Yes.
And it's not anything that's new to the equation, but it's one of the hardest lessons I had to learn. You have to be committed to selling your house because it is going to be hard and challenging, and there are going to be tough emotional times, potentially financial times if you're like waiting to get the money. But you have to be committed to sell your home because it takes a lot. If you have kids, it's jarring for them. They have to, like, it's changing their world. And for you as like an owner, it's like, for whatever situation, it's going to be taxing no matter what. Yeah. And if you're not committed to keeping the condition as it is, decluttered, all that stuff, making the minor repairs that need to be done if you can, and if you can't, you have to be willing to be committed to the price. And if you're said, I'm going to sell and I want to do it quickly, that may be you have to take a price under what you initially wanted to sell for or were comfortable, because if you have it on the market and it doesn't sell, it's not anything wrong with your home. It's just the market rejecting the price. And it's just giving you feedback that you are priced too high based upon everything.
Yeah. And I agree. I think commitment's the biggest thing, dude. Homes aren't selling in 3 days like they used to.
Right.
By any means.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, we're seeing some increased activity, but it doesn't mean that your home is going to sell right away, unless, and I'm not even guaranteeing that the things we've talked about here will make your home sell right away.
Right.
These are just the things that you have to do just to have a seat at the table.
Yeah. And that makes it potential to be able to sell it quickly.
Yeah. This is, you just got to be committed to that.
Yeah.
Like you said, like you got to keep your house clean. You got to keep it in good condition. You have to be committed to good marketing. It's inconvenient to do open houses.
Absolutely.
Right? It's inconvenient to have somebody come photograph and video your house. And
it's inconvenient to keep it clean after kids.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's why I would argue if you have kids, it's like, that's why it's even more important to be dialed in for the first weekend. So hopefully you can only need to keep it that clean for 1 or 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Have you had anybody that you've worked with that you saw them not be committed to these 5 things where it worked out not in their favor? So I know I have one for sure.
Okay. Tell your story.
Yeah. And it was a listing last year, and I told them the price that I thought I should sell at. It was about $525. They wanted to come in at $610. And this is right as the market started to turn. I could see it. I was like, this is not the time to go really push the price. And it was an absolute unique home. The backyard was stunning. It was fantastic. And I said, hey, you know what? I am willing to try this price. We can test it out, but I don't think that this is the price that is gonna sell it. I think it's gonna be $510. Like, I think you're about $75 too high. 6 months before, absolutely would have sold for that. And they said, you know what? We'll start at the price. And then we didn't sell, and we didn't sell, and we didn't sell. And I could not they did not want to. We came down a little bit on price, maybe about 20 grand, but we were still $50,000 over what we needed to sell. And at the end, we did get some offers. They didn't want to allow, like, they said they wouldn't confirm showings. So that was the not committed to showing it.
Yeah.
And ultimately we canceled the listing.
Yeah.
And which was fine. It was a massive learning experience. There's some things that I may not do again that I've learned going forward. They listed with somebody else and sold for $525 in a week. And so that I knew I had done everything I could, but that was where their commitment, they weren't willing to come down on that price based upon what I had said. And that was okay. And I learned a lot. And their goal was ultimately achieved, which is great, which they needed to sell their house and wanted to sell their house. So that was the one where I had, but didn't work out in their favor with me working on it, at least.
Yeah, I will say that too. You know, I had a couple unique ones that I listed. I don't think it was last year, dude. I think it was 2 years ago. It must have been just over here dying.
Yeah.
Just don't mind me.
Just,
Anyway, I think it was about 2 years ago. We listed their homes. It must have been 2 Octobers ago. They were so similar. One was just a newer home, and one was they were literally in neighborhoods across this major road from each other. Similar square footage ish. One was like 1,300. One was like 1,400 square foot. The 1,400 was newer. The 1,300 square foot house was on a 13,000 square foot lot. Okay, tiny house, huge lot.
interesting.
And I'm not bashing either of them, but I think that they were just not. It was right as the market was starting to get turbulent. They just were not willing to come down to the price that they needed to be at. So
Yeah.
I think we listed both of them the same weekend for $330,000.
Okay.
Put a coffee truck in front of one of the houses and used the open houses to drive traffic to each other.
Nice.
Yeah, I paid a lot of money for a couple cups of coffee. So
Yeah.
let me tell you, not many people came.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say is that I don't think that they were committed to actually selling their homes. I think they were testing the market.
Yeah.
They both still live in those homes today. They're both still really good friends of mine. And they both have reached out to me about selling recently. But I think they're going to wait a little bit longer because I don't think now the market's so far depressed from where they started that I don't think they can get.
May not be the right price for them to sell right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, just interesting. But that's two of them that I would say, right? Thank God they both kept their houses really clean. They were committed in that regard, but they weren't committed in the sense that they weren't willing to drop the price where they needed to.
Yeah.
So it's some alternative or some factors outside of that they couldn't control that they needed to get certain dollar amounts, but ultimately it just wouldn't work. So
Absolutely. Yep. And that's what it takes. So I think if you're committed to those 5 things, condition, price, marketing, making it a unicorn, and just staying committed to it.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. Those are the 5 things we would recommend you do if you're going to sell your house in 2024.
You must do.
Absolutely. You must do.
So
yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's it for today. And we will be back next time with another edition of Real Talk. Thanks for watching.
Guys.